I'm Abigail, and I'm here again with Brian, and today we'll be discussing policies and procedures and how this situation affected those. So, does Weaverland have a child protection policy?
Yes, we do, and it represents a journey that's kind of evolved over a period of time. I look back to see when we first created our first policy, long before Safe Church existed, before even the need for such a thing was really even as pronounced as it was. But back in about 2007 and 8, began developing a policy for Safe Church, or for for ministry for our children. And shortly thereafter, our leadership team then ended up creating a safety committee. And so that began then a journey. It was only 3 years after that when Sandusky was arrested, which that made national news at multiple levels of creating all kinds of state mandates and policies from there forward. So in many ways we were kind of ahead of that. But we have since then adopted Safe Church, which was no small task to become a certified Safe Church. And I would just say this as a word to an encouragement to any church, regardless of size. Maybe you do not become Safe Church certified, but to have a policy that protects children in your oversight, that you're stewarding, is just absolutely needful, absolutely needful. I remember when we first created our Safe Church policy, I had a person approach me, and this is back in 2008. And he said, "Brian, this is not who we are." And I said, "Praise God, that's not who we are, but it's who we can become." The capacity within all of us, just by the sin nature of humanity. I mean, I'm reminded of Jeremiah, who says, the heart is desperately wicked, wicked above all things. Who can know it? And so that's just a very real reminder that we need this. Yes, it's evolved over time, but I just would encourage every congregation, every ministry to have something protecting your children that is clear, concise, and can serve the leaders and the congregation or its people and its children well.
Yeah. As you reflect on this situation and all that has occurred, and reflect on this policy and Safe Church and all of the aspects of that, do you feel that your child protection policy failed you?
The day after the arrest of our pastor of student ministries, I hardly slept that night, obviously. And the next morning, I got to church around 4:30 in the morning, and it was still dark, obviously. And as I parked my vehicle and walked across our parking lot, we have signs at each of our entrance doors that says, "We are Safe Church certified." And something we've promoted and have on our website, and we celebrate that we are Safe Church certified. And I remember that particular morning as the lights caught that sign as I walked into the building. It was almost like the devil was laughing at me. "Brian, this is a dismal failure. How did this happen under your watch?" And just that utter despair of that moment. But what I told the congregation, that this policy, our policies, did not fail us. God alone knows what was prevented because of the policies that we had in place. And I believe that to be very true. And so in that way, the short answer is no, our policy did not fail us. God only knows what was prevented as a result of having in place what we did. I just want to believe that, the preventative aspect of the policies that we had.
Yeah. And related to that, in light of the situation, did you adjust any of the policy as a result of the events?
We really made no adjustments at all. If anything, the value of it was doubled down at multiple levels. Just seeing the value of it. Again, that comment I mentioned earlier of a person saying, back in 2008, "Brian, this is not who we are." And all of a sudden, here you are. that just nullified any of those reservations or those pauses of such a need for policies and procedures that we have regarding our children and our youth. So, but we made no specific adjustments because, again, the policy did not fail us. Human nature and the sin within us is what was the failure. So, but we made our policies were not compromised, even as a result of the criminal activity that happened.
Yeah. And do you want to speak any further to the difference in people's perspectives about the policy after all of this has happened?
It's interesting that as we journeyed, when this all went down and this all unfolded, how persons stepped up or seen the value of what we have, even in our safe church areas, our safe church policy, and then the areas that we have as secure. I remember again when we made a secure area for our children, some persons just saying, "That's not who we are. I can't even go in there because it's locked." Where before they're used to going into those spaces unsecured. But those questions all went away because that's just, sadly, that's the world in which we live, and the church, again, has, I believe, a moral and a ethical and a spiritual obligation to protect its children that it's equipped to steward and to steward that well. So the other thing that was interesting is even with clearances and so forth, that sometimes would be slow at coming in, or persons maybe being resistant to having to go through the clearance process. That just sped up, actually. Persons leaned in and said, "Yes, I want to make sure my clearances are in place," and again, seeing the value of it. So in that way, it's been very winsome, and again, God restoring, redeeming a tragedy, and restoring it in a beautiful way, and we're seeing now the redemptive gift flowing in everyday congregational life.
Yeah, you would never wish this upon any congregation, to have to learn the importance of this child protection policy, but here you are, and now others can appreciate it in a new way as well, and just lean further into that as well. So that's really, really great. I want to thank you for joining us today, and we will see you back for our next chapter.